Hi everyone, welcome to our new podcast episode. Today you will hear from Sumya, who did a study abroad exchange program at Nanyang Technological University in Singapore. Get excited to hear Sumya talk about her experiences, travels, and advice to future students interested in going abroad to Asia. Okay, welcome Sumya to the podcast. Do you want to tell us a little bit about yourself?
Okay. Hi everyone, my name is Sumya. I went to study abroad in Singapore for spring 2024. Some things about me is that I'm a current psych and BCS major and also an ASL minor. And yeah.
Okay, so do you want to tell us a little bit about what drew you to study abroad in Singapore specifically? Were you looking at any other countries in Asia, or was Singapore sort of it for you?
So I was actually in between three countries. It was either Japan, Korea, or Singapore. Mm-hmm. So I'll go through each one. So for Singapore, it's because I actually visited Singapore with my family for vacation, but we went there for like 4 days. So it was super short, but like my time there was amazing, and I felt like really connected to it by my own culture and their cultures and the food.
Yeah.
So that was one reason why I wanted to go to Singapore. And then for Korea, it was just like, I don't know, the culture, the vibe. Like growing up, I listened to a lot of Korean music, so like that's kind of why. But I didn't have like a really strong reasoning, so I kind of like took that off the list. And then Japan, which is still a country that I really love and want to go to. It was really tied between Singapore and Japan, but Japan didn't work out, unfortunately.
Did it have to do with like the course approvals or just like the program and like in general?
So from what I was told, it was like they just didn't have enough seats for admission. Yeah. And also the program that I was looking into at the time was requiring like language requirement, which I did not have at the time. So it didn't work out.
That's the thing with some of the programs though, like some of them are like open, like rolling admission, so it's like once they have like the number of seats that they want filled, like they kind of cap it. And others, like the program that I went to, IES Barcelona, like that doesn't really exist. They kind of take as many people as possible.
That's what I heard after I came back. And the thing is, at the time, I don't think they had IES Tokyo, which is what they have now.
Oh, really?
So if anyone wants to go to Japan, you can go now, because you don't need...
Because IES makes, honestly, like, study abroad really, really easy. Yeah. And because they're such a large program, they can really, like, take in a lot of people, which is good if you are really interested in that place. So when you were looking at Singapore, did you know you wanted to do like an exchange program? Like talk about your university experience too.
Okay. So I knew from the start I wanted to do an exchange program. And I think for Singapore it's only that option.
Like you study at the university?
Yeah.
Okay.
I studied at Nanyang Technological University. We're just going to call it NTU.
Yeah.
But well, everyone in Singapore, first of all, speaks English. So I never had a language barrier or issue with that. And yeah, I learned like a few like Singaporean words because let's talk about Singapore a little bit. So in Singapore there's Malaysians, Chinese, and Indians. So they all collectively like made certain words that they all know from each three groups, if that makes sense. So sometimes they would use words like that would confuse me a bit, but I had like a professor during my psych courses who would always be like, yo, Sumya, did you catch that? And I was just like, no, can you explain what that word meant? And so they were really nice to me because they knew I was, from America. And I was an international student, so they always helped me whenever I was confused. But otherwise, it was so chill. It just felt like taking courses in a different country because we spoke the same language.
Yeah. So how many classes did you take there, and what were they?
So I took 3 classes. I took all 3 psych courses. It was one on like tech and social psych. Another one was trauma psych, which was my favorite class. And then the last one was just a behavioral psych course. Yeah.
And did those all go towards like your major? Like did they get approved, or were you just taking them for credits?
Yeah, they got approved because you had to get all your courses approved. Before going abroad, I made sure to like finish all my psych requirements just because like I wanted to have like a easier and smoother time, not worrying about like harder classes while I was abroad. So they were counted as electives.
Yeah. And like another good thing to know is that if you study abroad, the classes when you come back are counted as pass-fail. I know a girl that I met abroad, she went to another university and she wasn't pass-fail.
That was like, a lot of people I met too.
Really?
They didn't have pass-fail.
Like other international students?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that's another kind of, I mean, it depends on how you take it. Like some people want the semester to like for it to affect their GPA.
Mm-hmm.
Other people don't want it to, but that's just how it is, and I don't really think it's a bad thing, honestly. Yeah. Like, it kind of allows you to like take a step back and like do other things, while also still focusing on like the academics, because it sounded like all the classes you taking were so interesting. Yeah. And me too. I feel like the classes I took there like are so out of the box. So yeah. But like, what did your living situation look like?
Okay, so I was lucky enough to get my single room. It's either like doubles or singles, and I did request a single and I got it. Singapore is one of the hottest countries I've ever been to in my life.
What's like the average temperature?
Like 95, 97, above. The thing is, like, it'll be 95, but it'll feel worse. Like, it's horrible.
Like humidity.
Humidity is
because
the
you
issue.
Got there in like January, right?
Yeah.
And then you left like May?
Yeah.
Was it 95 the entire time?
No, the whole time. It was so bad. So, the first day, like, I got there, first of all, Singapore also, oh my god, during, like, January, February, March, around that era, like, that time, like, it rains so much, so the humidity is super high. Yeah. So, when I got to my room, I didn't have an AC, and I already panicked, because I was like, I'm not gonna survive this. And, like, I remember I had a whole thing with housing, and I was like, you guys need to give me an AC. Yeah. And it took them...
Do they not have, like, ACs built in?
Some people get it. It's like a lottery. Oh. So, like, some people will either get to sleep with AC and have a good night's rest, or you'll suffer.
That's insane.
So, I had a real issue with that, and, like, I remember I was telling my family, I was like, struggling to sleep every night because it was that hot. Yeah. And, like, obviously you get to shower and stuff because, like, that's, like, the only way you would feel cool for, like, an hour, and then it gets hot immediately. And also, like, you know, having an AC helps with the humidity, so that was one of my biggest issues. And so I obviously complained about it, and I was like, you guys need to switch me to a room with AC.
Yeah, I can't do this.
No. Yeah. Did
they end up switching you, or no?
They did, but it took a lot to get to that point. Yeah. Like, I had to get my family involved. Also, my other issue was that Ramadan was starting up, like, in, March? And, like, you know, when I'm fasting, I can't have water and all that stuff. So I was like, I want to, like, fast in comfort while having AC. So, like, I try to put that into my reasoning of, like, why I want an AC. And then, like, they eventually budged and, you know, gave me a room with AC, But it took them, like, a month and a half.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad you advocated for yourself, because I feel like you kind of need to. Especially because I feel like when you're abroad, like, no one is really, like...
There.
Like, you're kind of just there on your own, you know? Yeah. But, like, you just have to reach out. It's kind of, like, what I learned.
Yeah, that's what I would say, too. Like, if you need something, you need to advocate for yourself.
Yeah, like, no one's gonna be coming to you. And honestly, I would say that kind of relates to real life. Because there's not really, like, hand-holding once you, like, graduate and you're, like, off doing whatever you are. So I think that's definitely a good lesson, but it sounds like you're very good at that.
Thank you. Especially in exchange programs, like, they kind of just throw you in there. They're like, okay, good luck, like, you figure out the rest. Yeah. So, like, talk to your home university, get your family involved if you need to. Even if it comes off, like, you're doing too much. Like, you know, you're not.
Wait, so I guess that goes into my next question. Like, what did your orientation look like? Like, day one, you arrive in the airport. Yeah.
Well, they don't pick you up because it's an exchange program.
No, I know. Not, like, pick you up, but, like, did they, like, walk you around, like, the university? Like, connect you to any students there? Like, what did it look like?
Okay, so from what I remember, it was super boring. I remember a lot of us were bored.
Oh, so you had other people with you?
Yeah, so they obviously gathered everyone, you know, who was international. And we were all together in the little auditorium. We played some group games. It was, like, fun-ish. It was okay. Like, normal icebreaker type stuff. And then there was a lot of students who gave us tours. Okay, so NTU campus is huge. Like, there's U of R, and it's, like, 3 times U of R. And so there's only so much they could show us in a single tour. And so it felt very slow. And, like, they barely got through with everything. And also, it was hot. So a lot of us are still not used to the heat. And we're just, like, trying to survive. And the thing is, Singapore is super eco-friendly. So, like, sometimes some places just don't have air conditioning because they just don't want to waste, you know, electricity and stuff like that. And so it was really hard to focus on my first day in orientation. I remember a lot of people also left because they just couldn't stand the heat. Yeah.
That's insane. I feel like that's one thing, like, the U.S. really, like, we love our ACs.
No, we need our AC, yeah.
In other countries, like, maybe not.
Yeah, like, they'll have signs everywhere that's like, oh, try to use your air conditioning as little as possible, or, like, when it rains, it's
that's
like,
for, like, sustainability purposes, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So did you connect to, like, any local students there, or did you hang around like other international students?
So definitely in the beginning, because we're already put with the international kids, you're mostly hanging out with them. They did like a few activities, like where we went to museums together, and so you're around them most of the time. But once you start going to your classes, I had like so much group presentations, so it obviously kind of like pushed me to talk to other kids in my class. And again, they all speak English, so it was really easy, and they were really nice, and they would always ask me about like, you know, how the US is and how they want to go. And like they also have gone abroad too, so none of them ever come to the US though, according to them, because apparently it's hard to get to the schools here, which is interesting. Yeah, they always went to Europe. And so I was like, no, you guys need to come here, or try to. Yeah, I bonded with a lot of people. There wasn't that much Bengali people, which I was kind of, because like first time I went to Singapore, I met a lot of Bengali people, but in my school there's a good amount of Chinese students, I would say, you know, Chinese Singaporean students. I learned about so many new cultures. I experienced my first Holi, which is like a Hindu, you know, festival, and then I experienced Chinese New Year for the first time ever in, you know, a dominantly Chinese populated country, which was amazing, because like I never did Chinese New Year in America, even though, you know, if you go to Chinatown they like do events and stuff, but over there it's so crazy and so big, and it's beautiful.
So you mentioned that you really liked the food aspect of going abroad. Can you tell me a little bit about what the food looks like there in Singapore?
So a lot of Asian food, of course, and since Singapore is, you know, we call America the melting pot, Singapore's like the melting pot, but of Asia. And so there's obviously the Chinese, the Indians, the Malaysians, so they combine all their foods. Asian
I love fusion.
So NTU, like NTU has such good dining food. That's dining so is good, like you want to eat the dining food. That's how good it was. And so every day, like, you can either have, like, you know, your curries or whatever from the Indian cuisine, and then the next day you can have, like, Vietnamese food. The next day you can have Japanese food. Like, they had everything.
So they're, like, Asian constantly cuisine. Switching it up? Like the
No, they have all of them every day. You just pick what you want. Okay. Yeah. And so I will say my favorite food was Malaysian food. Laksa curry, if y'all know, you know. But I was put onto so much foods that I've never had in my life, and it was delicious. And yeah, Singapore, they know how to do their food, and Asia in general too. I would say they know their food.
So you also mentioned that you traveled around. How was that like?
Amazing. Probably one of the best parts of being abroad is to travel while traveling.
Honestly, I agree, because like I was telling Samaya a little bit earlier how like if you want to go to another country, once you're there, it's so inexpensive to get there. Like if I were to try to go to Japan, my flight from the US would be like $1,000+
$1,500.
But like what do the flights look like if you're in Singapore, like getting around to other Asian countries?
Okay, so I traveled to 6 other countries while abroad. So for Japan, which was one of the top bucket list, you know, gotta go there items, it was around $400, which is a little expensive compared to other countries because it's a 7-hour flight, so it's still kind of far from Singapore.
Wow.
Yeah, it's still far, so that's why it's expensive.
Yeah.
But to me, it was worth it because I knew it was something I really wanted to do. But if you travel to somewhere else, like Thailand, for example, it was like $180, you know, round trip to. Insane. Very cheap. Yeah, versus if you're doing this from America, it would have been over $1,000. Yeah, traveling was amazing because one, it's cheap, so save up money. You can travel to multiple countries at once. Yeah, and I think it's one of those opportunities where you can travel without feeling like worried about where you're gonna stay and stuff, because you always have your home country to go back to, you know, at the end of the day, and not worry about like booking a hotel or Airbnb. And then also countries like Thailand and Bali and Vietnam, like housing there is so cheap. Like if you're doing an Airbnb or a hotel, it's so cheap. So yeah, as long as you save a good amount of money, you can plan these things out. And like I planned most stuff out while abroad. Like it wasn't like something I had to think ahead of time, you know, and like worry about.
I also didn't. Like I think I booked all my stuff like
the week before.
Like the first few weeks when I was there. Like I was like, I saw people going on trips and like planning stuff, and I was like, I should probably do that. But it's not something that I did before because like what did yours look like? Because I know I had classes like Thursdays in the morning, and I would always fly out like Thursday evening, and then I would come back Sunday. So that was like a little like 2 full day trip.
Yeah. So I purposely picked courses that would only land on either Tuesday or Wednesday. So I only took classes twice a week. But there were long days, obviously, where I just focused primarily on classes. But so I would basically leave Thursday and come back Monday. So it was like a good
That's like a good amount of time.
No, it's a good amount of time.
Yeah, because even sometimes when I would travel, like, I kind of felt rushed. Like, we had, like, 2 full days, and, like, one day would be, like, all the sightseeing and all, like, trying to, like, get everything done. And then the next day would kind of be a little bit more chill. Yeah. And then, like, the following day would be, like, coming back.
Oh, like that's true.
Yeah, because Thursday was always, like, our traveling day. Once you're there, like, you kind of just want to, like, sleep and, like, eat and, like, recharge.
Yeah. I'm not gonna lie.
You're lucky, yeah.
Yeah, I had a lot of time to take those breaks and stuff. But I try to use, like, every day to my advantage. And, like, there's also that point where it's, like, you need to rest, too. And it's okay to take breaks and stuff. But for me, I'm, like, a traveler. Like, I need to do everything. So I remember taking a flight, like, the night of or before my, like, exam like classes. So don't do that, maybe. But you just have to plan things out thoroughly, and like your schedule, and like I don't know, I feel like it's worth it at the end of the day. Yeah, travel. When people say don't travel, it's gonna waste your time, explore your home country,
I think you can do both.
You can do both. There's time for both. Yeah, don't make it seem like it's not possible, because also another thing, if you're planning to travel to Singapore is so small. You can finish Singapore, like, if you really want to go in depth, like, less than a month. So, yeah, explore other countries, especially if there's other countries that you were thinking about going to anyway. Like, why not do it then, you know?
What advice would you give to a student who's interested in studying abroad in Asia or Singapore?
Okay, so for Singapore, I think you'll be fine. You're going to be good. You might have a little bit of culture shock in certain ways, but language barrier you shouldn't be worried about that. You'll be okay. I think my biggest, like, thing was just, like, again, the weather, things like that. But other than that, I felt really included in a lot of things. And, I mean, I am also a brown person, so there's a lot of brown people there, so that could be why. If you're not, or, you know, you don't fit into those groups, I think you'll still have a lovely time. There's so much other exchange students who are there that, you will see exchange students a lot of the time, so it never felt like it was a small group. There's gonna be people there. And also, like, Singaporean people are really nice, and they're open to talk to you. I will say they're a little bit shy, so you might have to be the one to talk to them sometimes. But once you start conversation, you know, they'll love talking to you. And as for, like, other countries, like, when I visited Thailand and, like, Vietnam or things like that, there's obviously less English, but people try their best. Like, they want you to feel comfortable. And, like, while you may feel nervous, they also feel nervous not knowing English sometimes, which, like, it's kind of sad, because, like, they don't need to know it because it's their country, but they do feel like sometimes they wish they could speak more to you. So don't be afraid to, like, try to start a conversation, you know, using Google Translate or learning a few words from their cultures or languages to get to communicate with people. And, like, you have resources, so, like, use your resources. And it's okay to feel culture shock, but the best thing to do is to learn their cultures and to, you know, put yourself in their shoes and, like, understand why they do certain things, and, like, just enjoy it, you know, because you're in their country and you should try to learn about them, you know.
Of course, yeah.
Right, and so you can also teach them about your cultures. Like, they're interested in you too, just how you're interested in them.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad. It sounds like you had a really great time. It sounds like everyone was really, really nice. Kind of talking a little bit about my experience, like, I had a sort of similar thought process when choosing where I wanted to go. Like, I'm a native Spanish speaker, so I thought, like, Spain would kind of be nice because I already, like, know the language, and that could be, like, a sort of, like, common point to relate to. But I also, like I said in my other episode, I don't want to discourage people to go somewhere where they aren't as familiar, because there's so many opportunities to, like, integrate yourself and learn about other cultures. And I think that's really what makes abroad so beautiful, because you're getting to know so many new people, new experiences, and new communities, which I think is amazing. And it sounds like you did a great job of, like, taking all the opportunities you had in Singapore and, like, learning from them.
Yeah. Okay, the last thing I would add is research your country. Research if they know English. Research things about the weather, the culture, the food, and, like, prepare yourself. And also, like, if you have enough time, take a language course in that country that you plan to travel to. It might benefit you because, like, for example, Japan was one of the few countries where language barrier was, like, the biggest issue. Like, people there did not speak English. And so you can obviously work your way around it, but if it's a country you're really passionate and love, I would say take a course so you feel a little more prepared, and, like, it'll just help you when you're traveling. But it's totally optional. You don't have to.
Some of my friends went to Sweden, and when they had decided that they got all of their stuff approved, they downloaded the Duolingo app, and they started learning Swedish words, like sort of like buzzwords that they can
Yeah.
Because it's kind of hard to learn a whole language, obviously, but sort of oh, bathroom, hi, can I blah blah blah, stuff like that was I think could be really, really helpful.
It's important also for navigating yourselves, because for example, finding bathrooms can be difficult in certain countries versus I feel I don't know if it's easier in the US. Would you say it is?
If you don't know the language, then
maybe
sometimes you have to ask where is this, where
it'll
can I
be
find?
in the back of a store or mall, and it's hard. So learning important words, or learning how to order food, or things like that, because I'm telling you, some people in certain countries do not speak a bit of English at all, and so it'll just make it
definitely
easier.
go a long way.
Yeah, and using gestures obviously works. Sometimes you don't even need to speak. They know you're a foreigner, so it's okay. But yeah, that's it. Thank you.
Thank you to everyone for listening, and a big thanks to Sumya for coming on today's episode. I really enjoyed discussing her study abroad experience and reflecting on my own as well. Stay tuned for future episodes as we cover all topics studying abroad. See you in the next episode. Hi, listeners. We'd like to remind you that the opinions expressed by our guests on this podcast do not necessarily reflect the views or opinions of the Center for Education Abroad or the University of Rochester. Our podcast aims to foster dialogue, critical thinking, and exploration of various topics related to education abroad. We encourage listeners to consider multiple viewpoints, engage in respectful discourse, and form their own opinions. Thank you for tuning in and being part of our community.